would say more, right? Not so simple. Some people say, why don't you wash your hands for food? Oh, I just wash my hands for soap. It doesn't go this way, right? They ask you, why don't you go to the mikveh sometimes? Oh, I'm taking a bath. So, we got to learn it, but now let's learn a little bit about Chanukah. Mamash, thank you. Okay, Chanukah is old stuff, but we have to learn again. Why do we... Everybody knows the story of Chanukah. Mamash, we won the war, we drove out 400,000 Greeks, which is the greatest miracle in the world. And then we come back, we clean up the holy temple, and there's no oil for the holy lamp. But then we found one little mamish buried somewhere. One bottle of holy oil. But this oil would only last for one night. To prepare pure oil again takes a week. So the great miracle happened. It lasted for a whole week, and that's why we celebrate Chanukah. Okay, the first question is, so the first night we had enough, right? So the miracle was only 7 days. Chava, please. You know, I'm telling you, I'm so dead tired because I haven't slept off my trip to Israel. So if you're not, mamish, putting your energy into it, just... So the deepest question is, why do we celebrate 8 days? The miracle was only 7 days. So this is like a classic question. There must have been written about it 2 million books. All the great rabbis in the world, everybody is something else. First of all, which is the most important answer, God does not, a blessing is not out of nothing. So listen to this. The first night was enough for one night to burn, right? If the whole thing would have been burned the first night, there would have been no oil for the next night, even miraculously, because God takes only one drop of oil and makes it 10,000 mikvahs, right? But if there's nothing left, I want you to know something, it's very clear, you know. Imagine I would say, God bless me, I should suddenly wake up one morning and be the greatest scholar in the world. It doesn't go this way. I can only God say, bless me when I learn for 1 hour, you should, mamish, put knowledge to me like you would learn 24 hours. You know? Or I can say, mamish, to a poor man, I give you $1, but I bless you with this $1, you should buy stuff like for 1,000. There has to be something there, right? Because God created the world out of nothing, but after that, there has to be something there, right? You know, if there's nothing there, then, you know, between people, right? If there's something there, then you can bless it, it should be more, right? But if there's nothing there, right, forget it, right? You remember the story, Elisha came to this woman, and she was dying from hunger. Her husband was one of the holy prophets who was killed. She says, do you have anything in the house? She says, you have some oil. So he says, okay, get yourself hundreds of vessels, whatever I forgot the lotion, and fill it in. You know, there was one little bottle of oil, right? And she filled hundreds of bottles with it, you know. Because there was something that God's blessing should be chal on it, should fall upon it. So, first of all, if the first night would have been burnt out completely, where's the second night coming from? That means it was left over something the first day, right? At least one drop was left, and then God's blessing was upon it, and the next night it became more, and suddenly it filled the whole menorah. So according to that answer, there was only a little bit left the first night, and then the second night the miracle happened. It was full again, a little bit was left. Third night, mamish was filled again. This one drop became more. But then there's even a deeper answer, which is the real answer, that it burned all night, but it was still there, the same thing. Right? Not that it burned and there was one drop left, because this oil was so holy that it didn't. I mean, it was burning all night, but
it wasn't consumed.
It wasn't consumed, right? And this is a gewalt answer, you know.
Like
I want you to know something very deep.
Like the burning bush.
Yeah, listen to this.
Amazing.
You know, fire consumes and fire makes warm. You see, according to the first answer, the fire was also consuming, but not completely. According to this answer, this fire was only warming, not consuming at all. And you see what it is? This was the deepest thing, because what did the Greeks tell us? The Greeks tell us, you know, like when you're frum, burns you out, right? Nothing left. Takes away your spontaneity, takes away all your pleasures, makes a little piece of ashes out of you, right? So our answer was, the Torah is only warming us. Doesn't take anything away from us, you know. On the contrary, it's blessing us eternally, right?
So is it true with Sarah and Amos candles?
That's right. They were always there, you know. See, the question is, maybe they burnt down Thursday night to give her a chance to put the new candles to make a bracha, right? Or according to some, they were just there. So then she put the new candles, she blew them out, right? The candles were still there. But this already, again, you know, there's all kinds of holy rabbis, everybody says something else, you know? You know, the most beautiful thing about the Torah is there's so much controversy, Baruch Hashem, you know, everybody has something else to say, which is beautiful, right? You know, in all religions, there is not so much controversy among the leaders, you know? One says and that's it, and if not, hang yourself. Every page of the Gemara, everybody says something else, you know? Like you can find on one page 20 people, everybody has something else to say. And the Gemara says, they're all all right. You know? Okay, but now there's one more answer, which is also very important. The answer is, the greatest miracle is that they found it. Because it was buried somewhere. Obviously, and it's again thousands of stories, that the high priest, the last high priest before the Greeks, saw prophetically they had contaminated the oil. So he buried the oil in a corner somewhere. Okay, now listen to this. This is really awesome. You know, the Holy Temple was a little bit in the part of Yehuda, of Judah, and a little bit also in the part of Binyamin. In a certain very crazy deep way, the Holy of Holiest was on the grounds of Binyamin. And maybe later on we have more time, but right now just remember. Do you know that the months of Nisan of Kislev belongs to Binyamin? And it is awesome, but right now I just want to touch it in a second.
Can you explain why that's so?
What?
Why is Binyamin associated with Kislev?
Because it's a whole thing in Bnei Yisachar. I think what if we go into now, then we'll you know, you're not focused on me, holy cousin. You see, when you see those three Tishrei, Cheshvan and Kislev, is Ephraim is Tishrei, Cheshvan is Menashe, and this is Binyamin. That means Yosef Binyamin Rochel has the first 3 months of the year. Unbelievable. And okay, I'll tell you in a nutshell, right? But don't ask me, promise you won't ask me anything more, I'll just give it to you in a nutshell. Basically, there's 2 ways of fixing, you know, the 4 holy mothers were fixing what Chava did wrong by eating the tree of knowledge, right? our Holy Mother Sorah fixed the whole thing of death, right? Because nobody in the Torah has so many words and a whole parsha about her death, her burial, like our Holy Mother Sorah, right? Even Moshe Rabbeinu, he left and God buried him. Doesn't say like, but so a whole big thing, right? But again, without going into it. The deepest depth is that our Holy Mother Rochel died in childbirth. She mamish died in childbirth, right? What did Chava do? Chava walked up to Adam and she says, listen, I'm dying, I don't want to die alone. So she says, I want you to die with me. So the fixing of Rochel says she's giving up her life for her baby. I'm dying for you. I don't want you to die with me, but I'm dying for you. This is in a nutshell, without even getting involved in this deepest depths, right? A little bit. It's a long Torah. I'm giving you a little gefilte fish from all the Rebbes together, you know, like. Now you have to put the mustard on it, brother. But it's the deepest stuff in the world, you know. Because basically Kislev, the nights are long, right? And what did the Greeks want? The Greeks wanted to kill us, right? Shabbos Kjontiv, Heilige Rebbe, Chief Rabbi of the Province, maybe Messiah.
So what did the other mothers fix?
How was the Sabbath?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Did you keep it traditionally, brother? Or? But again, you have to promise me not to ask me too much, because then we get off from Hanukkah completely. Rivka, you know, she set the food for Yitzchak, right? Mm-hmm. Because of Chava, Adam was cursed that you eat your bread with sadness, right? Without blessing. Mm-hmm. And Rivka's food brought about the blessing of Jacob, right? She fixed that you eat, and that feast contains all the blessings of the world, you know. Mm-hmm. The Gemara says it was not only Yitzchak blessed Jacob, not only for this world, even for the coming world, you know, like awesome, right? And also you see, which is even deeper, the tree of knowledge, it says this is right and this is wrong, and the truth is it mixes it all up, right? Because when you live with the tree of knowledge, you don't really know what's right and what's wrong, right? And Rivka says Yaakov is right and Esau is wrong, right? She separated the good from the bad, right? It's true.
I believe it.
I believe. Brother, I believe. Yeah, the
Sunday morning, I believe.
The Lord speaks right out of me. I didn't want to brag, but it's obvious.
Praise the Lord.
Have you ever heard, you know, it's so crazy. Have you ever heard the Lubavitcher Rebbe saying, God said to me? Says, you know, I believe at Tzaddik is Shchinim in the Bertha. When you talk to all those little bishops, little priests, like, you know, God spoke to me. God told me this, God told me this, you know. Like God has nothing else to do but to talk to him all day. I meet a little missionary. He says to me, I have very positive visions lately. And God told him this, God told him that, you know. I said, listen, you know, God must really be bankrupt. There's no other customers to talk to but to you. Anyway. You see, Leah is something else, you know. But I don't want to get involved now because we don't know about Chanukah. See, the Greeks were very, Mamash, the night is getting dark and the Greek want to take away all our fire, right? Okay, now the only thing I want to tell you is, when Binyamin comes to Yosef, so Yosef says to him, Kim yochnecho b'ni, God should give you chen, right? That's how the world thinks. the Zohar Kodesh is the deepest Torah in the world. Elikim Yochanuch B'ni. See, Yosef, I mean, the Shvotim had clear prophecy what will happen later on, right? That they know on Chanukah, they will find this little bottle of oil. The question is, will they find it in the chelik of Yehuda? You know, the Holy Temple was divided, right? Standing a little bit on Yehuda and a little bit on Binyamin. So Yosef said to Binyamin, Elikim Yochanuch B'ni, I bless you. They should find this oil of Chanukah in your part. That's very awesome. You know?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking here about something else, right? You see what it is? Again, this is awesome deep. You know, Yiddishkeit cannot be without Yosef. So when Yosef was missing, Binyamin kept the fire burning. So much as he was the youngest, remember Yosef was a tzaddik alien, and Binyamin is a tzaddik tacht. So in the Kim Yochel says, Mamash, when the fire goes out, and Chanukah keeps the fire burning for 8 days, right? Should be in your part. Because Binyamin's thing is to keep the fire burning, right? It's awesome. And you see, the Holy of Holiest was in the chelik of Binyamin. According to the Mei Hashiloach, the whole thing Yehuda and Yosef are fighting over Binyamin was basically the fight. Yehuda says that the Kodesh Kedoshim should be in my part, and Binyamin, the Kodesh Kedoshim should, how did he say? According to the Mei Hashiloach, the question is if the Kodesh Kedoshim is mostly needed by a tzaddik or mostly needed by a Baal Tshuva. Yosef HaTzaddik says about Tshuva, holy is good, Halavai should be holy. Holy of holiest is only for tzaddikim. Or holy anyway, then you become the holy of holiest. Yehuda said the other way around. The Baal Tshuva, holy doesn't turn them on. It has to be the holy of holiest. I mean, it's awesome. You know, if you think how prophetic, you know, the Mei Hashiloach said it 150 years ago, take today, right? They need something, you know, strongest, right? Like all the Rebbe say, when you're a little bit sick, you take a little aspirin, right? The more sick you are, the stronger the medication has to be. So Yehuda saw prophetically that before Mashiach is coming, holiness is not strong enough. It's not strong enough to keep us going. Listen, you know, I'm sure you know, like, you go to most shuls, how strong is their Shabbos, Friday night? It's good davening, right? And all the kids coming back to Yiddishkeit, they're bringing so much fire into it, you know. They want more than that, right? Okay. So according to that shitte, it didn't burn at all. It was not consumed at all, right? And that it didn't consume, the second night was enough for 2 lights. The third night was enough for 3 lights. More and more and more. Then there's another very holy answer also. That since they knew they won't have enough until the 8th day, they divided this oil into 8 little sections. And this was really not enough to burn all night. It was just a little bit. And the miracle was that it burned all night. It's also gewalt, you know. Sometimes I'm coming before God and I've just, I really don't have what it takes. But I have just a little bit, right? And then mamish, a miracle happens and this little thing carries me forever. But then this is very important to know, which is also earth-shaking. According to Jewish law, when you come to the Holy Temple, and they don't have pure oil, they can use any oil in the world. They could have used impure oil also. So why were they so eager on pure oil? And this is again from all the Rebbes together. You know, imagine I'm going through so much to do something, right? And then at the end, I'm just doing it. No. The maccabees said to God, we give our lives to bring the light of Yiddishkeit back. I don't want to burn impure. Refuse, right? I want you to know the old Lubavitcher Rebbe, when he came to America, you know, he was mamash schreien Gewalt about the Hebrew schools, right? In America. I mean, now it's also bad, but then it was worse, right? So he said, you know, you're teaching, you're kindling the light of your children with impure oil, right? And the Chanukah is the beginning. We got just getting rid of the Greeks. Don't give them impure oil, right? Give them rabbis who teach them from the Shem and Torah, right? I have to tell you this joke, really. You know it. My holy, the chief of the Bronx does know it. In former days, it was a Yiti and Shu. He was actually very Yid. He spoke Hebrew perfect. He was a friend of Yalek. So he told us that 1922, he was a friend of my father. He left the world already maybe 20 years. Maybe more. He came to America in 1922, and Artnish was Sesni, there's nothing to eat. He walks up and down the streets, passed by the Rumänische Schule on the east side, sees big sign, looking for a Hebrew teacher. He goes in and he says, I want to be a Hebrew teacher. I speak Hebrew perfect, it really does. So the principal says, you speak English? I said, I just arrived. He says, basically, you don't have to know only one word. Because I give you a class where all they do is read. So you point at a boy or a girl and say, just point, then they start reading, right? Then they read a little bit, and then you say enough, and point at somebody else. Okay? He comes to the class, the boy starts reading. Then suddenly realizes he forgot the word enough. And in Hebrew, enough is die. The boy reads, he says, die. You know, the boy gets all shook up. What can he say? Points at another boy. He's reading. He says, die. Finally, the whole class got up and say, oh, why should we die? You die. I mean, you can imagine what kind of Yidden they were producing. Thank you for the deep breath. Let's go out. Okay, now, all the Mephoshim are asking, why didn't, you know, that the little candle, that the fire lasted for 8 days is I mean, it's a joke miracle in comparison to what, that 70 priests drive out an army of 400,000. Okay, again, I give it to you in a nutshell. Basically, we don't make a Yom Tov of every miracle which happened to us, you know. Thousands of miracles happen to you. Not everything is a Yom Tov. Why do we celebrate Pesach? Because Mamash every year, Mamash light is coming down from heaven, and Mamash takes us out of Egypt. Everybody in the old little Egypt, right? You know, Seder night, I'm not celebrating because my Zayde went out of Egypt. Because I'm mamish going out of Egypt if I want to. Shavuos, I'm not celebrating because 3,700 years God gave me the Torah. Because every Shavuos, mamish God opens all the gates and the Torah comes down. You know, to fight off the Greeks was a great miracle. It was for that moment. And if you remember Chanukkah, they only mamish initiate the Yontif the year later. Because they were waiting if the light of Hanukkah is shining again. You know, it was unbelievable. Shona Cheres Kobam. You know, the Chachum saw a great light is shining, you know. So it was, you see, so it's not celebrating miracles. Miracles we have enough. I mean, we need more. But the question is it every year? So the holy Chashmonoim realized that the Ness of Chanukah is happening every year. You know what's happening? That there's so little left, and it carries you forever, right? Sometimes you meet a Yid in his connection to Yiddishkeit is just one drop, right? And this one drop, you know, I mean, we see him today, day and night, everywhere, right? Not to be believed. And you know, it's mamish very important to know that when we kindle the lights, you know, when we kindle the light, we make the word Hadik Ner Chanukah, to kindle the light, said enough, in some versions, some say, Han Ner Shel Chanukah, to kindle the light of Chanukah. According to Svak, is the Hadik Ner Chanukah, to kindle the light of Chanukah. You know, when I'm kindling the lights, Chanukah night, I'm mamish kindling that light, which Chashmonoim kindled in the Holy Temple. It's not like I'm kindling a little light in memory, you know, memory of my Baba. It's mamish, I'm kindling, when I kindle the light, first night, I'm bringing down the light of the first night. It's mamish, go out, right?
So you don't say you shall in the
Say Chanukah, Hadik Ner Chanukah. Okay, now something very deep. We were learning it, but it's just very, very important to know. You know, the light of Shabbos is on the table, and I can take a sefer and read by it, everything. Start getting involved in the halachos. Ner Chanukah is, you're not permitted to use it. You're just permitted to look at it. You know what it means? I don't have vessels for that light. That light is much beyond me, right? I cannot say, oh, it's part of my life. It isn't. Because that light comes from such a high place. It's mamish, the light of Mashiach. It's everything there is, right? Everything there is. And also, it's only moments. I don't know, did we learn it last time? I don't remember. This is one of the very important principles of the Maral. That anything which is very holy, maybe less 8 days, Pesach less 8 days, Sukkot less 8 days. Shavuos is only 1 day. Because on Shavuos, when God comes down on Mount Sinai, this is so awesome, you cannot take it more than 1 day. You know? Like, you know. I don't want to say anything bad, but I'm sure Charlotte is shock treatment, you cannot give more than a minute, right? 2 minutes. That's it. I cannot give someone a shock treatment. So it's good, let's give it 24 hours. Doesn't go, right? You see, Shavuos is like a shock treatment. Chanukah is even deeper. Chanukah is a minute, right? Bench Chanukah licht, like, you know, Pesach I eat matzah all day. Sukkot is in Sukkot all day. Chanukah is mamish just few minutes. Bench Chanukah licht, because it's so much beyond me, but maybe for a few minutes I have vessels. Let's put it this way. Why is it, and I notice it everywhere, usually when you come to a shul, you hang around there. When you come to the Holy Wall, there was something you're a little bit, then your mamash have to leave. Because it's not that you want to leave, but just, and you don't really leave, but it's just, how much can you take in my heart? Yeah, what do you want to say, Michael?
How do they figure that the light of clock is only half an hour? You know, in other words, he's saying it's such a big...
Yeah, Michael, you ask a very strong question. I'm proud of you, brother. You see, Chanukah is, besides everything else, is to let the world know about the miracle. And basically, when it's dark, people don't walk on the street anymore. Only the first half hour. Although this is really full of full of deep stuff, but just for the moment. The Chacham knew that about half hour after it gets dark, people walk on the street. So, for instance, according to it depends on the time, right? In former good days, you can only kindle lights maybe 4 o'clock, because 5 o'clock everybody's not on the streets anymore. And nowadays, I can kindle 12 o'clock at night, and the street is full of people, right? But it's even deeper than that. But just for the moment, let this pass as an answer, yeah? Okay, one more thing, very, very important. Okay, now everybody knows everybody has to kindle lights. It's a must, right? Although basically I can kindle 1 light in my house, and next night 2 lights, and says for all the people in the house. But the way we are doing it, every person has to kindle himself. And if you have a baby, it's 1 year old, Mom, you're holding the little hand, and you kindle. Because this light of Hanukkah, you see what it is? It's so much not from this world, right? And the more it's not from this world, the connection is so individual, it's awesome, right? Matzah, I buy matzah, bells of matzah, shmur matzah, put it on the table, everybody eats it. Chanukah is not to bring out the light and everybody has it. And also, you know what it is? Everybody has their own dark alleys, the neshama. Why is Chanukah when it's dark? Because Chanukah, all the Rebbe says the same thing, Chanukah mamash, the light of the Chanukah reaches the darkest corner in your heart. Darkest corner. That means even where Yom Kippur didn't reach, you're a therapist, right? How deep can you reach into the dark alleys of the neshama, right? You can talk to somebody for 10 years and have, I don't know what, and there is something, you come to a place, it's dark and forget it, right? Chanukah is reaching the darkest corner of my neshama. So there's even all the people who Yom Kippur doesn't help. The light of Chanukah is shining into the deepest depths. Okay, now, why is it a candle? We're not, Chanukah I put on a big torch now. It has to be a candle. Because, again, it's a little bit like Bedikas Chometz, right? I'm looking in dark corners. But in the deepest depths. When I walk around looking for something, I have a candle in my hand and I walk around, right? Chanukah is mamash, everybody is looking, mamash, humanly speaking, for my God. Right? It's not enough, and I know there's one God, I know He's taking care of all the Yidden.
My God.
Mamash, I want to have my private connection to God. You know what's the difference between paganism and believing in God? A pagan, they have one little God that's hanging there on the wall, or wherever it is, and he's connected, everybody's the same, right? It's not we have a God hanging down in Himmel and heaven and everybody's serving Him. It's my God. Like I was saying, right? My deepest connection. You'll ask a pagan, what's your connection to this God? connection. Only I laugh at you would say connection. I bring sacrifices, so he should bring down water to my field, right? No connection. And when you know, Chanukah is the utmost non-pagan. Non-pagan. Because the Greeks wanted us to become idol worshippers. You know, Egypt wanted us to be slaves. But Chanukah is mamash doira shel shmad, you know. So when Chanukah begins, until Mashiach is coming. And I want you to know something awesome. The story of Esther was written down. The story of Chanukah was not written down because it didn't end at the time of the Maccabees. It's going on till Mashiach is coming, right? The world wants us to be pagans. The world wants us to live in utter darkness. And the most beautiful thing in the world is that the Gemara says, the darkness upon the world, this is Greek culture. And you see, the world, what's the greatest darkness? The greatest darkness in the world is when you think that dark is light. Dark itself is not so bad yet, you know. But I once heard, I don't want to mention names, this rabbi, he said, we don't need the Torah anymore, we have democracy. Right? There was some yeshiva, he said democracy is based on the principles of the Torah, you know. But, you know, it takes culture, and this is a slide, right? I don't want to get involved in politics. Today, Clinton makes peace, Kaviochel mit Yamach Shmoy, I don't want to mention his name, he calls that peace. It's utter darkness, right? Peace is the greatest light in the world, right? Okay, now, this is very important. You're not permitted really to begin any work before you bench Chanukah licht. It's a whole Torah which we it's too long to go into now. Yeah, and where was I? Yeah, you're not permitted to begin working anything, a new project or anything. But anyway.
During the holy days?
What?
During the holy days?
No, before you bench Chanukah licht. You know, it's 5 o'clock, right?
Right.
So I'm going first to the movies, I'm having a date, taking a girl to Chinatown, and when I come down back, I'll bench Chanukah licht. You shouldn't do this, because right now your obligation is to bench Chanukah licht. And again, this is also flexible, you know, unless, yeah, what do you want to say?
You did bench licht before davening Ma'ariv, or
That's already up to you, you know, you should not, some daven Ma'ariv before them. Basically, a lot of Rebbes would kindle before Ma'ariv even, because the moment it's getting dark, a lot of Rebbes would just right away bench licht. And again, other Rebbes, like C.F. Lublin, other Rebbes would only kindle after midnight, you know, like prepare themselves. What?
Isn't there something about that you're supposed to have the lights when people can see it on the street? Yeah.
That's what I say. But today, people walk the streets all night.
Yeah.
At the time of the Gemara, you know, after it's dark, nobody walks on the street. Yeah. But even regardless, some rabbis would kindle light when it's getting dark, and then in sons, you know, all the big rabbis after midnight. Amshinov only kindles 4 in the morning, you know. It's not, yeah, it's not that he's sitting watching the late show and then he decides. It takes a minute to prepare himself, you know. In Amshinov, the bench licht about 4, and then he has a little feast, you know. And the feast ends 1 in the afternoon, you know, every day, you know. So you can ask him, so, you know, don't tell him.
Is there any limit to how long the Hanukkah lights can be lit?
They have to burn at least half hour.
But there's no limit on how long?
No limit, right? In Sons, the Rebbe would sit mamish 6 hours in front of the, and I heard in Bobov that people watched the Sansa, not only he didn't take his eyes off, even his eyelids didn't move. Can you imagine for 6 hours not moving your eyelid?
More oil or more?
A lot of oil, right? Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of olive oil can you use? Are the ones you get in the store pure enough?
Yeah, but if you can, if you buy already, go to the Hebrew bookstore and get yourself oil from Israel. It's best.
Well, what about the drugstore oil?
Anything. You can use any oil, but if you want to ask, if you ask me, get yourself good oil from Israel. Might as well. Okay, between all the nights together, all the 8 nights, we are kindling 36 lights, right? And everybody knows that Leah, our Holy Mother Leah, Lamed Aleph Hey is 36, right? And the Torah always, the worm begins, Ele Advorm, Ele. Ele told us. So the 36 candles, this is Mama's light of Mashiach, because our Holy Mother Leah had the light of Mashiach, 36. And the thing is, when Adam Rishon was in paradise, he was there on Friday for 12 hours. And then he was supposed to be driven out, but he stayed for Shabbos 24 hours. So that means we were already in paradise for 36 hours. So when we bench Chanukah licht, it's mamash the light of the day when Adam and Eve were still in paradise. And one of the deepest things is what happened at that time in paradise, because Adam and Eve, because they ate the tree of knowledge, so a little bit disturbed their shalom bayis, right? So what is it fixing on Chanukah? Is mamash ish ubeisa. So I mean, I don't know if there's anybody when you bench Chanukah that you don't sit there and fight with your wife or with your children, right? You might as well not kindle, right? Because this is the whole thing, right? And also, what kind of a light are you shining out into the world? You stand there, you fight with your wife, say this light, fighting light should go out into the world, show the world how to fight with your wife. Heilig Daniel is coming here. Okay, then it goes without saying that the women have to kindle lights, although basically any mitzvah which has to do with time, women are exempt, because basically they're not, I mean, if they want to do it, they can do it, but I cannot tell a woman in the morning, you better put on fringes. I have to nurse my baby, right? I have to diaper my baby, I have to take care of children, which is more important than the whole thing. But Chanukah, mamish have to kindle lights. Because if you remember, the whole miracle happened because of the daughter of the Kohen Gadol. Everybody remembers the story, or not so much. The Greeks, you know, they really wanted to contaminate our souls. They had a thing that every Jewish woman who gets married has to spend the first night with Greek soldiers. Yeah, disgusting. What our Yidden had to go through, this is called culture. Right? The lowest, Germany was also a culture, right? I don't want to say anything too gruesome, but you know, in Dachau there was a professional who would every day from 3 to 5 had 2 hours time, and if there were some people who were supposed to be whipped to death, that was his thing. In the morning he was teaching philosophy at the university, and just he was into a fitness program, so he found out they need someone to whip people to death. This was his exercise. So you tell me that he had light? The lowest darkness in the world, right? So what happened? The daughter of the high priest is getting married. And so they made it was in Medina, in our holy city. And they tried to keep it secret. In the middle of the wedding, Mamish, she's tearing off her clothes, and she's standing there, Mamish, in full armor. She says, my brothers are cowards, I know I can't trust them, they won't defend me, so I have to defend myself. So when Yehuda Maccabee, her brother, heard this, he says, Mamish, she is right. We all are cowards. So a few minutes later, the Greeks come, and they never had any resistance. They would come, confiscate the bride, bring her back the next day. They came, Yehuda Maccabee knocks them off on the spot, right? And this is how the uprising began.
Wow.
And then, mamish, from day to day, stronger, stronger. You know, the Greeks weren't even prepared there would be any resistance. You know, the Greeks would, day and night, would grab people on the street, say, come worship idols. He said, I don't want to. Kill him. Throw him out on the street dead. Day and night. Anyway.
What is her name?
Yehudit.
Yehudi.
Can you imagine her share in the coming world? She mamish, I mean, with everything, she mamish saved Israel. If you and I are sitting here, and we are still Yidden because of Yehudit, right? Well, the Greeks would have killed us eventually. Does anybody here know how did Judah Maccabee get an army to fight? The sad thing is, in those days, it could have happened today. The Jewish establishment had mamish given up. We're not resisting the Greeks. If you don't want to worship idols, just die. And they told their children, keep away from Judah Maccabee. He's dangerous, like Meir Kahane, he's dangerous, right? So Judah Maccabee went down to the pagan temples, to the Medrash. And you know, all the young people were priests in the temples, right? And he would ask them, what would you give to restore the holy temple to its glory? They say, we give our lives. We are only here because nothing else is happening, right? Like today, right? So Mama, she got all those kids, all those little yogalach and Hindus, you know, he got them, he got all the whole Chava together, and they were the most awesome army. So they had a few hundred, it was still a joke. 400,000 without weapons, you know. Okay, then there's something else very important. Tzedakah on Chanukah is awesome. Tzedakah on Chanukah, you mamish have to give. And everybody knows that when you bench Chanukah left after that, it's a big thing that you give out Chanukah geld to the children. You don't have to give them thousands of dollars. You see what it is? Because the Greeks said that the light, hey, what's happening? So Jyoti came home, eventually. Good.
Not next year, Shlomo.
What?
Not next year, Shlomo.
Oh yeah. No, she was in our car. We only brought her home 3 o'clock at night instead of 9.
Like 3 o'clock.
Just one thing that you
Yeah.
said about the purity of the oil,
Yeah.
that when the Maccabee or Yehuda asked the ones who are going to get their lives, they also they were the purest, because they understood what was going on. They weren't
100%.
contaminated by the Hellenic culture.
The way, you know, the way.
Get their lives.
You see, their inside was pure, the outside was not, because they were worshipping idols.
Okay.
But they were only worshipping idols because everything Jewish was shot. Like today, you know. You ask someone, why do you go to India? He says, I was in Israel and nothing happened. Happens all the time, right? I tell you once, I think it was still in the time when Josh was in Israel. If you remember, there were times when they would leave Thursday night, early in the morning, 4 o'clock was the flight, would come from Bombay, an Air France flight, leave Tel Aviv 4 in the morning, arrive 8 o'clock in Paris, and then they go to New York, and then 1 o'clock we're in New York. That was a good connection for me. One time I'm coming on this flight from Bombay, and the whole flight was filled with yogalach, white garments. I start talking to them, they're all Yidden. 120 Jewish kids from Philadelphia and from Brooklyn. So I asked them, I said, you know, the plane was on the ground for 2 hours. He said, you didn't go down to walk on holy ground? I said, you know, don't give me this S-H-R-T. He said, it's not holy ground. He says, I came to Israel for my bar mitzvah. It was the most stupid thing I've ever seen in my life. Never, right? Because the mitzvah we made for him was so stupid, right? So he goes to India. Never. So Judah Maccabee says, no, okay, let's restore the Beis HaMikdash, let's kindle a great light again. Okay, I just tell you one more thing, then I want to learn really about washing their hands, which is very important. On Purim, we have a Gregge, right? And the Gregge is there, and you turn from here, right? That means you turn from below. Chanukah, when you play with the dreidel, you turn from above, right?
Wow.
See, on Purim, it began from below. Mordechai and Esther woke up the Yidden, right? Lech genoises kol Yehudim. So we start turning our hearts from below, and then it began mamish shooting up there in heaven, atomic explosions in heaven, right? On Chanukah, Yidden were mamish like dead, right? But mamish there was an awakening from heaven, mamish from heaven, from above, right? Because who gave Yehuda the strength, Said it was mamish an awakening. It was the right time from heaven to wake up the Eden. So I don't know what you think about playing with the dreidel, but mamish is gewalt. Even the biggest Rebbes, Lubavitcher Rebbe plays dreidel. Yeah, mamish. And when the Rebbes who played dreidel, was mamish like you could see them always have the deepest concentrations, Something should happen from above to wake us up. Okay, I forgot to tell you about the Greeks. I was in the middle of the Greeks. The Greeks say, the Torah is a beautiful light, but it has nothing to do with this world, especially not with money. It wasn't assimilated Jew. He says, God is cute, but when I'm in Wall Street, I can't, leave me off as God, right? So what do we do when we kindle Chanukah lights? I'm taking out money and I'm showing my kids the light of Chanukah shines into the money also. Because God's light is in the darkest corner. Everything. Who are the people who have trouble giving money? Because God's light is not shining into their pocket, right? What's the beginning of a worm? What do? Feed people, right? Because most people in the shul, they're standing there shocking like dogs. But when it comes to chores, they don't invite anybody. Sitting there and eat like dogs, right? The beginning of Avraham Avinu was mamish, invite you to eat. Okay, peace. Let's do a little bit washing the hands. What? Okay, let's make a 2-minute break. 5 minutes, yeah. Okay, wait one second, Moshe, you have a question.
Yeah, but it's not to do with either one of these things.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you ask.
I know we don't talk much about politics here.
Yeah.
It's not a political.
Well, if you have to, you have to.
But I have to, only because I'm just curious in terms of what's going on in Israel now. In terms of we have almost like mamish a civil war there in terms of the different energies here. I mean, Baruch Hashem, there should be peace and what's going on.
Let me tell you.
And yet Sharon's talking, we've got to stop this. I mean,
you have no choice.
Being killed. So I'm wondering what.
Let me tell you something. You see, the world is so much against Israel, right? Do you know how often Israel offered all the Palestinians to give them housing? Shamir wanted to build for them 400,000 apartment houses. Well, they said, we are fighting to wipe out Israel, we'll stay in our dirty holes, And imagine if one Arab would have said, yes, I would like to move into a good apartment house, he'll be killed the next day. They kill each other like dogs, right? You see, if If they would be for real, if all they want a land, we'd give it to them gladly. They don't want a land. They want to walk around killing. Imagine okay, you know what? I give you half of Israel. You think they'd be quiet? But tell me, give you a little piece. And who are they? You know, listen to me. The question is like this. If you believe that war can take away the ownership from a nation, okay, then now it's ours, right? We won the war. If you believe that war cannot take away, then it's ours from the time of King Solomon. What does it do, you know? It's ours all from now, from before. The land never belonged to the Palestinians. They were always living by the Turks. They were living there, good, so you can still live there. Nobody stops you. And you know, it's just terrible, you know. And you see, if I don't want to mention their names, if they wouldn't be for real, they would say, we really want to make peace, we're going to stop the fighting. No. You know, Yom HaShoah, he says, oh, you know, I didn't give order they should kill, you know. I just winked a little bit, right? He should have come out and say, listen, from now on, we want to be peace with Israel, and we not stop the killing. He doesn't say that. And if you read in the newspapers, the police of the Baal has orders not to stop the killing, not just to kill.
Crazy.
So you see, if Rabin would have been a mensch, he says, okay, that's it. If Clinton would have been a mensch, he says, okay, we stop it. It can't be. So the tongue is hanging out. So obviously they have to take in their own hands, right? You know, the Ma'oz HaMachpelah is it's Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. So and a PLO man goes and takes an axe and wants to kill a Jew. So miraculously, he managed to cut him open his whole back. Obviously, you know, the strong Yidden there. He pulled out the axe, knocked out the Arab. See, I don't want to be Ma'ara Dinim on Israel, you know.
I hear them talking
Well,
about
you see what it is? In Hebron, the Arabs killed the Yeshiva Bochum. So 2 Yeshiva Bochum went, and they killed an Arab. All the terrorists are free already. Those 2 Yeshiva Bochum rotting away in prison. Well, this can't be, you know. This can't be. Do you know those Nebuch, you remember one time, they were 12 years in prison. Remember in Chava, the Anshe Machteret? 12 years in prison, and an Arab kills, the next day he's out, he's ready for more. Just can't be. The Israeli government is bad.
Now I hear they want to take all the Yidden from Kiryat Arba or Hebron,
Just can't
put
be.
them and just transplant them in Beersheba or something.
Yeah, why are those Arabs better than we? We live there, they live there, we're living there now, that's it. We build the country, you know how they live like dogs. Look at all the few cities they have. Desolate, nothing. And especially in the Golan Heights, you know what we did to the Golan? Was dead. Now it's blooming, and there are factories, and there's unbelievable cities, right? Hotels, summer resorts. And you know what happened? We give it back to them. It'll be a verstunkene place in 2 minutes.
Shlomo, there's people talking that they should. Mordechai Tenler was talking that they should create a Jewish state now.
An emissary Jewish state, yeah.
Where the settlers are should become Yehuda.
That's it.
Did you see his talk on the TV show?
No, I talked to him personally. I didn't see his TV thing.
Sounds familiar. Didn't we do that already, like about 3,000 years ago?
I have no. You see what it is? On one hand, you see, if they really want peace with us, it would be beautiful. They don't want peace with us, you know. Yeah.
Rabbi Riskin had a couple of talks, and one of the things he was saying, he had no problems with the people that were living in the land. They want peace, but the Palestinian PLO and the fundamentalists have already said they want every Jew in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
They will kill.
Aye. Master, what are we going to do? You see what it is? One thing is very special. You know, the Zionist, the secular Jew came to us, to the young people of the Yidden, and they said, listen, you know why there's so much anti-Semitism? Because you're so from, you walk around with beard and payas, and you look like Yidden. If you would all look like Goyim, the Goyim would love us, right? So, yeah, this was their thing. So where did it start? The biggest anti-Semitism in Germany was assimilated Jews, right? So here, Israel, right? They have the most assimilated. They don't mention God's name even, not to offend the Goyim. So one of us out the same way, right? So Rabin, right? A secular. You know, do you think a real from government would have permitted this?
No.
No.
Not in a trillion years. Think Begin? Even Golda Meir would have never permitted such a thing. And you know what the most unbelievable thing is? You want to make peace with Syria? Syria is paying for all this killing? Mamish, today every Jew in Israel realizes, Mamish, I cannot rely on anything, Mamish God, we need a miracle. There was never a time when we need more miracles than today. You know? Here's a very beautiful Torah. It says, why was in former days Chanukah at the window? And today you can even put Chanukah light on your table. It's also good. He says, in former good days, the Yidden were Mamish one. The enemy was always on the street. Today, sadly enough, we have our enemies in our own house. It's gewalt, you know. Okay, we make a stop for 5 minutes.
I have you guys mute.
Pause.
You see what it is? Basically, a mamish completely forgot that Brother Tzvi and I discussed during the Lord's of time, and I can't find this one sefer which I need the most. So I'll just learn a little bit from here. The depths of Untitled Chapter is like this. Can you tell them not to talk so loud there?
They have some. Where my 2 suitcases are standing there? You know, maybe bring them in because I'm afraid that, you know.
Yeah, I'll put them aside.
Can someone help Moshe just to put the suitcases right here in the shul? Shouldn't stand there. Yeah.
Yes.
He's got 2 guys.
Okay, I'm just beginning to learn a little bit. When a person eats bread, you know there's certain bread which is like cake. You don't have to make the bracha hamotzei lechem and all over it. Like, what do you say in good English? Say what bread which has like, it's like cake. If it's just, what? Like cake, right? It's a little bit like today they make rolls also which they put something in so it should not be like, what? Apple juice. Oh, it has to be water, right? We learn, after that, all this, we learn in a few minutes, just right now to start. The problem is that basically we are learning the laws of washing our hands from the way the Kohanim would wash their hands in the Holy Temple. Right? And in the Holy Temple, you didn't go turn on the water and all like that. You know. It has to be, he has to have a vessel, and with this vessel you pour over your hand. Okay, but then the problem is, okay, I'm pouring water over my hands, right? So the water takes out all the impurity from my hand, right? But the water is impure, right? So then I have to get rid of the water. So I have to pour again, right? To get rid of the water the water made me pure, but I have to get rid of that water, right? So according to some, you just pour twice, right? First, I pour water over my hands. What? No, it's too long. Right now. Oh, that's the one I need to take with me. But right now, someone should sit down. We are learning a few minutes. It's just. Okay, so there's a whole big controversy. According to some, when you wash your hands, you wash 3 times. First, I wash my hands, right? Then, let's say my hands come a little bit holy, right? But the water is unholy. Then I pour over it again to wash off the water, right? But then I mamish pour out water and the mamish my hands become holy, right? So, by most rabbis, they would do it 3 times, right? But some basically 2 times is also good. First, you wash your hands, right? And then the water on your hands becomes a little bit impure. You know, in the morning, Negelwasser, when you wash your hands in the morning, it's mamash, you have to wash 3 times. Because it's not only to wash out the impure, mamash to receive holiness for the whole day. So you need mamash 3 times. And also the vessel has to be like the Beis HaMikdash. The vessel, you don't take a little broken vessel and pour it over. It has to be like the Beis HaMikdash. It has to be a complete vessel. But then let's learn the first word in the Mishnah. The water which I pour over has to be a reviz. How would you say a reviz? 1/4 of what's the measure? Would you say it's a reviz? Yeah, about more than that. Like wine, Friday night, you have to have a reviz. How big? It's almost half a cup, right?
About 4 ounces. About 4 ounces.
How much is 4 ounces?
Half a cup.
Yeah?
About a quarter cup.
Quarter of a cup. Here the Mishnah says something unbelievably beautiful. I take a reviz, I need to wash my hands, right? But then I was so careful, there's something left. And the person after me does not have a reviz in it, but since I began washing with this reviz, this has already the power of washing hands. So imagine I take a reviz, right? Begin washing, it's maybe not possible, but if it would be possible, then 100 people after that can all wash from this. You see what it is? Not only it's just so deep, not only I receive holiness from the water, but the holiness of washing the hands is really even upon the water. That means by washing my hands with the water, something happens to the water and the water becomes also holy. So from that water, 100 people can wash, you know. It's just so beautiful, yeah. Awesome.
That's really Mayim Chaim in 2 senses, right?
Yeah. Okay, then there's a Mishnah. Okay, it's not so simple, you know, with the first and the second and the third, because after the second it's really like a little bit schwach already, you know. what this is, we learn it the next time. It's just, I want to give you a taste. You know, there is washing in the mikveh, right? There's a machlokes, but basically, you know, in the mikveh, you know, the difference between washing my hands and immersing myself in the mikveh, it's very simple. When I wash my hands, it's an act, a wash. The mikveh is not an act. It's like a fact. I am in the mikveh, and the mikveh purifies me. Right? Okay, when I wash my hands, it has to be an act, washing, right? Like the Kohanim. The Kohanim didn't hold up their hands and someone was washing. A person can do it for me also, but it has to be an act. Someone takes water, pours it over me. The deepest question is now, if one hand I washed, the other hand I put in the mikveh. Does it have to be both hands the same way? The purity of the hand has to be both the same way? Or can I, one hand, you know, was washing, on the other hand was immersing? This is the deepest. Then the one machloki, just to give you a taste, if I have a trained monkey, and he is really doing the act of washing, is that called an act of washing? Or because the monkey is not a human being, so it's not called an act, it's just, you know, what an animal does is not really like a conscious act. Like.
By acting in myself?
What?
By acting in myself?
Yeah.
The act also means like,
Yeah, might say, yeah.
Really do it. The act is not really pretend. You mean myself?
It's a shaila. Okay, you know what means a whole vessel? That there cannot be a hole in the vessel where the water is running out. It has to be on top, it has to be good, and the bottom cannot be a hole. What else? Second. Okay, then there's also a big shaila if you eat bread, but you eat less than a kazayis. How much is a kazayis in English? An olive, right? Yeah, so you don't bench over it. You don't say grace over it because it's less than what you have to eat. But the question is, do you have to wash your hands over it? If the Chachomim were only initiating washing of the hands if you eat like really a feast, because basically bread is like a feast, or just whenever you eat bread. So what else can I tell you right now? What?
Why is it 3 times?
Because, okay, first let's, and you see, I said before, it's not, I wash my hands with soap. This is a different kind of purity we're talking here. I pour water over my hand, right? So the water purifies my hand, but then the water is impure, because the water took out the impurity from my hands. So the water on top is also not pure. So I wash off the water, right? So, but then there's something else. I wash off the water, right? But the very fact that my hands touched impure water is also bad, right? So I pour the 3rd time. You know, the third time is very delicate. According to some, it has to be 3 times. According to some, it's good times.
And those are the same reasons that apply to the Kohanim like they apply to us?
Yeah, because we are learning it from there, how to wash our hands. I don't know if you know that the Kohanim would not only wash their hands, would mamash go to the mikveh when they went to the bathroom. What?
It's not that in Meir's class, because we
What?
were doing a mikveh class.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and they had to do a mikveh thing in the 2, and they had to wash their hands and feet in the special water if they just urinated.
So, you know, only when they did like here, don't want to sound coarse, a bigger thing.
Right.
Do you know the only one who kept it up? You know the only one who kept it up is the Heilige Satmar Rebbe, you know? Mamish, awesome. Well, not the Satmar today, the one who passed away. If you ever have 5 more minutes, I want to tell you something about the Pasha. You're not focused on me. I didn't have a chance to look into Untitled Chapter more, but just to give you a little taste. And also to make you aware that washing the hands, whenever we wash our hands, it's very, very special. It's not only purifying your hands, it's almost like bringing down Kedusha to the whole system of me, you know. There's a story that someone, a big rabbi, came to Shava, talked to him and learning, and then suddenly the Shava goes like this, and he says to the rabbi, well, when did you think of it? And he says, before I washed my hands. Oh, I could smell it, he said, you know.
That's
You see? Like, right. It was pure yet. So the Torah isn't pure and the thought wasn't pure, because they hadn't washed your hands yet. Every day like a sad joke, but it's a good joke. Remember the one?
Do you wash your hands before you read the Torah?
And before davening.
For davening, 100%. What I want to say, I told some of you, but it's a good, sad story. You know, those Reform rabbis have this little microphone. And so one Shabbos morning, the rabbi had to go to the bathroom and forgot to turn on the mic. And now they hear the whole procedure. And obviously he did a strong act, a hard act to follow. And his wife, never, she's mamish dying there from shame sitting there. But here comes the end. He walks out from the bathroom and did not wash his hands. You know what it is? The Reform Jews always say we Orthodox Jews were not clean. We are mamish clean. Because us Elech Yidden mamish wash our hands all the time. So the crazy thing is, you know, at the end of service, everybody has to say good Shabbos to the rabbi. So what happened? Everybody shook hands with the chazan, and then when it came to the rabbi, they grabbed him by his shoulders or by his ears. Never like a soil as also, you know. Let's come out. What?
What about the mikveh?
What?
The mikveh isn't that clean, is it?
different kind of clean.
Okay, so you have a good kasha, but right now we're learning about washing hands. Usually, I tell you something. Maybe the mikveh sometimes doesn't look so clean to our eyes, but if you're in there, you come out, you feel pretty holy, you know. Obviously, there's I want you to know something very deep. I think we learned it when Eliezer, I think I'll tell you later, but it's good to know, and Eliezer was looking for a wife for Yitzchak, Rivka comes, and there were 100 steps going down. And when she came, the water came up to greet her.
Wow.
So, and listen to this. And she went down maybe 2-3 steps, and the water went over her, because it was Friday, and she was going to the mikveh before Shabbos. See, so she didn't just go down to take water. She was ready maybe to jump in the mikveh down there, but the water came over her. And remember the Torah from Rav Tzaddik Cohen, he saw she is holy. Why? What do you need to ask her questions? Well, the answer is, Yitzchak needs more than holy. Yitzchak needs somebody who's mamash infinite, right? Someone asked her for a glass of water, and she is ready. Who's doing that?
Michael.
Please. Okay. I have to say in Amshinov Torah and the Josh, which is very important. In Amshinov, if you go to daven Shachas in the morning, we start going to the Mikveh, you're already an outsider. So the son-in-law of the Amshinov was the father of the last Chazina, the Izhbitzer. And he wouldn't go every day. So Chassidim come to the holy Amshinov, his father-in-law, and they say, your son-in-law is really like a little bit off. He doesn't go every...
Which one is this now?
The Tiferes Yosef was the son-in-law of Reb Menachem. Reb Menachem was the father of Remeir, not Remeir, of Reb Shimon Sholem. Yeah. So he says to them, instead of asking me why he doesn't go every day to the mikveh, ask me rather, how is it possible that he comes out alive from the mikveh? When he would go to the mikveh, it's mamash, keep his soul alive, mamash. It was always a miracle he was still alive. But take him out from the mikveh, It's like awesome. I have to tell you one more cute mikveh story, then mamash, I really have to go. And mamash, thank you so much for coming to learn. The holy son that comes to a city, and says, where's the mikveh? He says, there's no mikveh, it's just a river and it was all frozen. Okay, let's open the eyes. Cutting out the eyes, a hole, the sun that goes in. And the people the shamas who were waiting for him, it's freezing, it's cold. Some of the mikveh goes under. So he says, Rebbe, please, I'm dying from cold. He says, don't be an idiot, come into the mikveh. He goes, jumps in the mikveh, it's mamash hot. So he says to the sons, Frierdiker Rebbe, where did you learn this? He says, I learned it in Yiddishkeit. The Holy Son, they had 2 rabbis actually. Yeah. And the holy Reb Shitzer and Yiddishkeit. The Yiddishkeit was also one of the greatest pupils of the Sea of Lublin. The Yiddishkeit considered himself a pupil of Reb Shimon Yochai. Because Mamash Reb Shimon Yochai came every night to teach him the Zohar. So the Heilige Rebbe of the Yiddishkeit, which would be on the level, he wrote the biggest commentary on the Zohar. Where did he write it? In the mikveh. Especially in the winter. He would cut out the eyes, candles, and he would write. So he says, you can, even you are Moshe Rabbeinu, you cannot stand in the cold water for 6-7 hours all night. So the Rebbe knew the secret how to warm the mikveh. Yeah, so he gave it over to the Holy Sons. Yeah. It's gewalt.
Did you say you wanted to,
You know what?
Did you say you want to say something about the parsha?
Yeah, well then I changed my mind.
So then,
But I want to tell you one good mikveh story. What?
so then I have one question.
Yeah, what do you want to say?
No, it just is hitting me that we're feeling so strong that we're so close to Mashiach coming, right? Mashiach is, I mean, we see everything that's going on in the world. It has to be changing over, getting ready for Mashiach, right? And then we sitting here and we're learning about all these tzaddikim, right? We know that not only we, but is there anybody here today, right, that is anywhere near on the level of the Rebbes? There isn't.
We don't know.
How is it possible?
All the big Rebbes, I don't know.
So how is it
Maybe
possible?
Maybe they can do the same thing, you know.
Well, so the idea is that I can't understand how Mashiach couldn't come then, but he could come then. It just, I mean, I guess if somebody else is asking the question, I can think of a whole bunch of answers. But it's right now, it's like, I'm just blown away by conceiving of the level of the Rebbe's. How can Mashiach come in any place other than in a holy place or a holy time? And how can it be?
Well, I tell you, you know, in the time of Napoleon, there was an opening for Mashiach to come. If you remember the big, between the Rebbes, right. Some Rebbes thought, let it be Gog and Magog and let Mashiach come. And some Rebbes said no. So this is what the Ropshitzer said. You know, and the incense in the Holy Temple, it says, how do you do with Shabbos? He says it means a third and a fourth, we didn't hear about it. The story is Mashiach would have come then thousands of souls would have never come back to Yiddishkeit. So Mashiach is waiting until really mamish everybody comes back. Heavy stuff. So we don't know what we're doing when we bring people back to Yiddishkeit. I bring Mashiach 2 million miles closer, right? You see, it's nothing to do with Rebbes. There was never maybe an awakening, you know, today is mamish like getting stronger. And you know the whole thing when in the 60s, beginning of 70s, when there was such an awakening among young people, right? But Brother Devil, you know, Brother Devil works also with Shuma Yidden, not only with Frei Yidden, you know. He made them not accept you know, one holy Ippola came here, and his name is Cohn. Told me his father's a Cohen. His father was not religious, but his grandfather was religious, a Cohen. So I told him to do it. And his eyes were popping out, you know, Mama's blessing all the people. I was thinking, wow. So I lost one member, the hammer. He says, if you can let someone like this long hair duchen, then this is not my shul. So go. You know, like God was waiting for this, for this idiot to daven. I was waiting for this little holy Hippolyte to bench, right? But the world wasn't ready for it.
So why did Mashiach come there?
Because it was not there. They're waiting for...
Because they don't want
Mamish, all the neshamalach, you know.
Yes, I mean,
Listen, when all the neshamas coming back, I'm not there in heaven. I don't know. The registered neshamas, you know. But obviously the reason, you know.
We're waiting for you, though.
No, but Mamish, the moment you become a Rebbe, and they all come. I want to tell you first a Mikveh story in the Code of Hashem. I heard the story from Mamish, a person, the two brothers who survived Auschwitz, and they came to Lakewood 1944. Well, from the first 45 Yidden who came, they bought a farm, and sometimes would eat with them Shabbos. So this is what he told me. He says his father, he heard it from his father, and his father was there when the Heilige Tzaddik told the story. This is the story. The Baal Shem Tov would go every night, cut open the ice, and immerse himself in the water. I mean, I have to tell you, you know, in Russia, when it's cold, and the water on the ice is gefährlich cold. And the Heilige Baal Shem, after being maybe half hour on the water, is half dead, right? Mm-hmm. So when he came out, he would most probably die from cold. He was a little peasant. You know, the peasants wake up in Russia 2, 3 in the morning, and he saw this holy man going down to the Mikveh. So while the Baal Shem was in the Mikveh, he made a little fire. And then he left. And the Baal Shem Tov, someone never caught him. One time the Heilige Baal Shem decided, I got to see who it is. So he waited. He was hiding behind a tree. And he sees little peasants coming, making fire. The Baal Shem Tov comes out and says, you know, you're saving my life for so long already. Ask me one of three things. He says, it was decreed in heaven, you shouldn't have children. And I bless you. I can bless you to have children. It was decreed in heaven, also you shouldn't live long, I can give you a long life. It was also decreed in heaven, basically that you should be a poor schlepper, but I can bless you with riches. What do you want? So he said, give me all three. Wait. Then he says to the Baal Shem, can you give me a little clue how long I will live?
What?
Give me a clue. How will I know when I have to leave this world? He says, when somebody comes who looks exactly like me, that's the day you're leaving the world. So the Heilige Rebbe, when he was running away from prison, they're smuggling him from Russia to Austria, he passed by the village where this peasant was living. And they said, here's a peasant who has seen the Baal Shem. He says, Gewalt, I want to see him, right? It's maybe 110 years after the Baal Shem. He comes there, and this little peasant begins crying. He says, today I'm leaving the world. Because the Baal Shem told me someone comes who looks exactly like me. Yeah. So he told the story, the original heard the story from this peasant, and then the Rishon told it to his son, and I heard it from the Yid. His father was there when the Tzaddik told the story. But the end was that the Baal Shem Tov said, the Rishon says, you know, the world always thinks you have to be clever like a Jew. It's not true, he says. You have to be clever like a peasant. Ask for everything. Why should you just say one, right? The doors are open. Ask for everything, right? Chaim, Chaim.
Thank you so much.